Mecca is dead. And you all are here partying in his penthouse. Would anyone like to tell me how that happened?
So the main theme for episode 1 was perception versus reality, and where it seems like Noma has been introduced as the villain, I want to take the theme from that classroom and look at this with a different perspective. Is Noma really the villain, or did she have a right to come in and ask questions? But could also Noma's introduction be the catalyst for the London-based Power spin-off? Now, Noma walked into Go Season 3 confused by the ring she was promised by Mecca was in an auction house. She was also walked into this penthouse suite with these random people partying in her dead fiance's apartment without any knowledge of who they were and why they were in Mecca's apartment. But for someone who had just lost her fiance, it really is intriguing to see the way in which she's dealing with Mecca's death compared to the way Monet is dealing with Zeke's death. 3 months have passed by and we can still see how much Monet seems to be struggling. She's lost her way where she was in control for 2 seasons, and she seems to be solely focused on revenge and getting out of the game. But she has no plan and no strategy. She's telling Tariq she needs help, and she's ordering Lorenzo to find the killer, but there's no plan, there's no chess moves. On the other hand, we have Noma who's lost her fiance, who's taking control, saying, okay, you've got that ring that belongs to me, I want that back. You guys are in my dead fiance's apartment, who the fuck are you guys? But also trying to get answers for what happened to Mecca. Because Mecca wasn't just Noma's fiance, he was a crucial part to her organization. He was a global snitch who informed on all of her enemies and rivals, and therefore allowed Noma to stay 3 moves ahead of her rivals and enemies.
Mecca was my first lieutenant. His drugs belonged to me. And more importantly, he was my fiance.
Now, as always, this definitely requires us to revisit Mecca's introduction and some key conversations he had with Monet, because it does seem like he was more than just a global snitch. He was a compulsive liar, and that blue diamond ring he promised Monet, it was for Noma. Now, in season 2 of Ghost, we were introduced to a new character, Mecca, but off the bat, Kane knew he smelled like a narc, and he definitely called it. But not only was he a federal informant who informed on some of the biggest cartel bosses, he had a huge history with Monet which went back 24 years, and that's who he had his eyes on. Dante and Monet had a deep history, and the connection between them wasn't just how they were once together, but Zeke was their son. Mecca said that he couldn't come back until he was the man she wanted him to be, and then we saw him giving her a taste of a life that Monet could only dream of, by the detriment to the life she had with Lorenzo, and also her golden ticket way out the game, Zeke. But with Zeke being their son, Mecca wanted to take care of both of them. He told Monet she could stop all the hustling and leave the street game behind, and he wasn't just prepared to take care of her and Zeke, but all her kids. But it was when Monet flipped the script on Mecca and told him that she had changed her mind was when we first saw the diamond ring. The diamond ring that would be the catalyst to bring Noma to New York. Now, this ring was stolen along with Mecca's stash through a strategic plan that was created by Tariq St Patrick and executed by the Tejadas, Brayden, Effie, as well as the GTG.
The lady this was made for is sure gonna be upset.
Should be alright.
Now, this diamond ring was given to Davis as a payment, and he was told to be discreet with the way he gets his payment from it. But we all know Davis loves his money, and that's something I'm going to come to in just a moment. But before I fast forward 3 months, I do think it's worth noting all we knew about Mecca's past was what he told us, apart from him being a global snitch, and that should have rang alarm bells. In those 24 years, Monet moved on and had 3 kids with Lorenzo. But what did Mecca do in those 24 years? Did he marry? Did he have any kids? And who could he have been connected to? Now, in Go Season 3, we learned how Davis had one of his contacts put the ring in an auction house, which is the reason why we now see Noma in New York. Now, if this ring was, I don't know, broken into smaller diamonds, or maybe sold on the black market, then maybe it would never have brought Noma to New York. But one of Davis's characteristics is greed. He loves money, and he wanted to get as much out of it as possible, so the best way in his eyes was to put it up for auction, and it was sold for 5.5 million. Noma's backstory is that she was born in Nigeria, but orphaned in the UK by 2 UK gangsters, and so she grew up in the street game in the UK. She then found her way to America where she then met Mecca, and that's where their story unfolds. Now, in this conversation, it was revealed how Mecca was Noma's first lieutenant, but most importantly, he was her fiancé, and he promised her this blue diamond ring, but he died before he had a chance to grace her with it, but also how there were 0 circumstances that Mecca would have sold this ring, and that's why this ring is so important in more ways than one. So coming back to Davis Maclean, Tariq warned him because he failed to be discreet, he's involved as much as he is, so Tariq keeping his name out of his mouth with Noma is his payment going forward. Now, whether we see Davis and Noma cross paths is yet to be seen, but one thing Noma proved is she really doesn't play games. She's ruthlessly chopped off Claire's hand and took the ring back, both her and Obi asserted their dominance over Kane, Drew, and Tariq St Patrick. And coming back to my previous point about the difference between her and Monet, Mecca may be a dead fiancé, but she's getting shit done, taking control because she runs a global empire.
I can't believe Noma's in Paris and I'm stuck here babysitting you tiresome American. I told her she was insane for giving you this opportunity. You will only squander it.
Now, this is one of the exclusive clips for episode 2, where we see that Obi is overseeing her operation in New York because Noma's in Paris. So maybe we may even see an episode where we go overseas, who knows. But I definitely think this could be the catalyst for the London-based spin-off. So the fact Noma and Obi are from London, and they have this backstory of being raised by gangsters in the UK, really does make me wonder if power will go in a different direction with Noma. Because after all, looking at reality and perception, is she really the bad guy? Yeah, she has control over Tariq and she's forcing them to replace Mecca, but only because she has no idea what happened to her dead fiancé, because nobody's talking. So in her eyes, these are the guys that could have potentially have killed Mecca. They're partying in his penthouse, and the blue diamond ring that was promised to her was also promised to another, Monet Tejada. So again, is Noma wrong for wanting answers? I think if that was my fiancé who was so integral to my organization, by informing on her enemies, I would want retribution and answers as well. So let's see what they do with Noma's story arc, but also what else we learn about her and Mecca's backstory. And I really do think it was a really smart move by the writers to connect Mecca to Noma, because it gives us this continued connection to Mecca, who had a connection to Filipe Lobos that goes back to power. So I really do think we've only just scratched the surface when it comes to Noma's character, because there is so much they can do with this character, just like how we were all saying Mecca was a missed opportunity. So let's see what else we learn about Noma, what else happened between her and Mecca, and was Mahoney one of Noma's enemies? And could we even see other big players that Noma works with when she goes overseas? Or even better, could we one day see Tariq St Patrick and the rest of the crew also go overseas? There is so much meat they can add to Noma's character, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's intrigued about her past and global empire. But there is also one other thing. Monet was the one to kill Mecca, so could we see Noma versus Monet at some point in the future? Will we see them coming face to face? And what would Noma say when and if she learns it was Monet who killed her fiancé? How would she even react to knowing Mecca was planning to give this blue diamond ring to Monet? And did she know about Zeke being Mecca's son? I doubt it, because neither did Mecca until he saw Zeke on ESPN. So there's also this dynamic between Monet and Noma. But that's a breakdown of Noma's backstory and how we've not heard the last of it. Not just in terms of Mecca, but also how this could be the catalyst for the London-based spin-off. So drop all your thoughts down below on all things Noma, and will her and Obi one day jet off from New York back to London? And could we catch up with their stories back in the UK? Drop all your thoughts and perspectives down below in the comment section. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
You think he can replace Mecca? He had federal protection. He informed on my arrivals and ensured the Fed stayed out of my business. Can you do that?
Of course we can.